Welcome to day 2. Yesterday we were looking at these symbols, less than and greater than, and we're going to look at them again today, but we're going to use a different model this time. We're going to use number lines to show greater than and less than. And so what I want you to think about is with a piece of paper, will you go ahead and just sketch out a number line right now just on a scratch piece of paper? And what that number line might look like is just a straight line. And we put an arrow here and an arrow there, right? And then let's say we're starting with this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4, and then this is 5. And then we'll just stop there. And the number line, this is a smaller number line, but number lines have arrows to show that there are numbers going this way that we're not showing on our papers, and there's numbers going this way that we're not showing on our papers. And the numbers here that are bigger than 5 are going to be numbers like 7 and 13 and 200 and 1 million. And the numbers over here are going to be what we call negative numbers, and you'll get into that later, so don't worry about that. But those are numbers that are less than 0, and we call those negative numbers. So what I want you to notice, though, is the arrow points is greater than, points to the bigger numbers, and then the arrow that represents is less than points to the smaller numbers. So that's another way that you can think about greater than and less than if you forget which symbol means what, because I remember when I was your age, I got those turned around a lot, like I'd mix them up. So just remember, if it's pointing this way, that means is going to bigger numbers. But if you're going to use that as a reference, you have to remember that when you have a sentence like 7 is greater than 5, you have to be reading left to right in order for this arrow to look like that. Okay, so that's just a little review of how to remember greater than and less than in terms of using a number line. So what we're going to do today is we're going to play the game that we played yesterday, except we're going to use number lines. So you have a number line sheet that looks like this, and what we're going to do is we're going to pull 2 cards, and then we're going to place those numbers on the number line. So the first draw is for you, and you've gotten 43 hundredths, right? So let's take a look at the number line. And what I see here is I don't see hundredths, I see tenths. I see 0 all the way to 1, and this is 1 whole going all the way up. But I don't see hundredths. So where am I going to put my 43 hundredths? And that's where I want you again to be thinking about place value. So if we have 43 hundredths, you're going to remember that this is tenths and this is hundredths, right? So we have 4 tens, or 4 tenths, and we have 3 hundredths. So we can start with the 4. So your answer is right here, 4 tenths, 4 tenths, but it's 3 hundredths as well. So what I'd like you to do is let's go ahead and put in our placeholder 0 here, just in between 4 tenths and 5 tenths. So now what we've done is we've switched this to 40 hundredths and 50 hundredths, which is equivalent. So then what I want you to do, and this will go a little bit faster as we get the hang of the game, but we're going to do a benchmark here to show that that's the middle between 40 hundredths and 50 hundredths. And what's in the middle of 40 hundredths and 50 hundredths? 45, right? So we're going to call this 45 hundredths. That little place value benchmark will kind of help us know where 43 hundredths goes. So now To the left of 4500ths, you're going to know that the 43 is about here. So like 41, 42, 43, 44, and then 45. So I'm going to circle 4300ths right there, and that's where you got marked for the first one. So mine is next, and I got 5200ths. So mine, I'm going to go ahead and mark here 5000ths and 6000ths. So 5000ths is here, 51, 52. So this was you, and this is me. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write my number sentence, and I'm going to write it from left to right. So I'm going to write 4500ths is less than 5200ths. And in this round, I won that round because you can see that my number is bigger than your number. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the next one. You got 55, so let's go ahead and put 55 where you think it belongs. And this is where it can go a little bit faster. You can say to yourself, oh right, so these are tenths, but 1/10 is also 10/100ths. 2/10 is 20/100ths, 3/10 is 30/100ths, and so on. So you can go ahead and put these zeros here, and what these placeholder zeros do for us is they tell us that our eyes are seeing equivalent fractions. 2/10 equals 20/100ths. So 55 is going to be right in the middle of 50 and 60, right? So 5500ths is right there, and that is where you land on this one. Let's see how I did. I got 3200ths this time. So I'm going to go to my 30, and I'm going to count up 1, 2. And my benchmark for 5 would be about here, right? It's a little crooked, but it would be right about there. So 3200. So now I'm going to go ahead and write my sentence. I'm going to say, this time I'm going to say 3200ths is less than 5000ths. All right? Okay, we're tied. It is now your turn to go next. Here we go. Yours is 800ths. So is this 800ths? No, it is 8/10ths, right? So that is not 800ths. If this was 800ths, we would have an 8 right there. So you are way over here. So what you're going to do is you're going to make your benchmark for the 0.05 or the 500ths mark. This is going to be 10/100ths, right? Or 1/10. And then 8, where are you going to put the 8? You're going to put it about here, 6, 7, 8. And then this would be 9, and then we'd be up to 10. So that's your score right there. Mine is 2400ths. So again, just to go quickly, I'm going to turn this into 20/100ths and 30/100ths. And I'm gonna put my benchmark, my halfway, my 0.05 mark there in between the 20th and the 30th. And I'm gonna know that my 2400ths would be here because I know this would be 2500ths. So that is my score. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to write our sentence. This time, let's do it a little bit different. Let's go with the bigger one first. So I'm going to write 2400ths is greater than 500ths. We can also write it 500ths is less than 2400ths. You notice when I do it either way, the small point of the arrows pointing to the smallest number, and the wide part is pointing or is oriented towards the bigger number. See that? Okay, let's play 2 more rounds. You get 25 hundredths. So go ahead and you mark that one down. And I got one whole. So I don't need to do much here. This is my score. Where is your 25 hundredths? Where did you put it? If you're not sure, this is always a great thing to do. Just turn your tenths into hundredths, and then your 25 hundredths is your benchmark, right? 25 hundredths. So that's your score right there. Okay, let's go ahead and write this, and we're going to say 25 hundredths, or let's turn this into money. 25 cents is less than $1. See that? Okay, are you ready for the last one? Here you go. You get 77 hundredths. And I get to keep one. No, just teasing. Okay, oh dear. And I get 2 tenths. Okay, you go ahead and mark your 77 hundredths and use a strategy that makes sense for you. Mine is 2 tenths, so on this one, I don't even have to change anything. This is me. And 77 hundredths, where do you think that is? Go ahead and mark it. My strategy is to make these into hundredths because they're equivalent. They mean the same thing. I do my benchmark, so I know that this is 75. I'm not going to mess with counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because I know this is my midpoint. All I need to do is go 75 hundredths, 76 hundredths, and 77 hundredths, and I will know that's where your score is. Okay, so to write that, to write our number sentence, we're going to do 2 tenths is less than or greater than? It is less than 72 hundredths. I could also write this, if I'm going left to right, I can write 72 hundredths is greater than 2 tenths. I can also, just to help our eyes a little, put that placeholder 0 there so that you can really see what you're comparing. I'm kind of a visual learner, so if I can see it, it makes more sense to me. So this is a 0, placeholder 0, and this is a placeholder 0. Okay, so that is comparing fractions on number lines. So you're going to go ahead and do some independent practice on that in a little bit, and I will see you next time.